figures in women's sports is trying to bring women's soccer to the Queen City. Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark is reportedly joining FC Cincinnati's bid for Cincinnati.
Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham are at the center of a sports story that has sparked plenty of conversation, especially among fans who follow the rapid growth of women's sports. A headline making the rounds suggests that the two WNBA stars could be connected to a massive $100 million deal involving the National Women's Soccer League. But before we get carried away, there is an important question to answer. Is that reported $100 million deal actually real? The answer requires some context. Caitlin Clark has indeed expanded her interests beyond basketball, but the story is not about her leaving the WNBA or switching careers. Instead, Clark has become involved with an ownership group connected to an effort to bring an NWSL expansion franchise to Cincinnati. That move is significant because it gives one of the most recognizable athletes in American sports a direct role in supporting the future of professional women's soccer. Clark's involvement comes through the group associated with FC Cincinnati and its bid for an NWSL expansion team. Rather than stepping onto a soccer field as a professional player, she is using her influence, visibility, and business interests to help build opportunities for women athletes. That distinction is important, especially when social media headlines make the story sound like something much bigger or different than it actually is. For Clark, this is another example of how her impact is growing beyond the basketball court. Since entering the WNBA, she has become one of the most recognizable young athletes in the United States. Her record-setting college career at Iowa, followed by her WNBA Rookie of the Year campaign, transformed her into a major sports business figure almost overnight. Now she is putting some of that influence behind women's soccer. That matters because professional women's sports continue to experience tremendous growth. The NWSL has expanded its audience, attracted major investors, and continued adding teams in new markets. Having a star such as Clark associated with an expansion effort can generate attention that extends far beyond traditional soccer audiences. And Cincinnati makes sense for several reasons. Clark grew up in the Midwest and played her college basketball at Iowa, while Indiana has also been a major part of her professional story. Cincinnati is relatively close to that region and already has a passionate soccer culture because of FC Cincinnati's presence in Major League Soccer. That existing fan base could be a major advantage for an NWSL expansion team. The Cincinnati proposal is also part of a much larger race to bring additional franchises into the league. Several markets have expressed interest in hosting NWSL teams, meaning ownership groups need more than financial resources. They need strong local connections, experienced sports leadership, and recognizable ambassadors who can help build excitement. Clark could provide exactly that. Her involvement also highlights a broader trend among young athletes. Today's biggest sports stars are increasingly becoming investors, entrepreneurs, and owners rather than limiting themselves.
Be a part of the National Women's Soccer League. Our partners at the Cincinnati Enquirer spoke with FC Cincinnati team officials who confirmed that Caitlin Clark is in fact joining as a member of the bidding
to their playing careers. Basketball star Angel Reese, for example, has also shown an interest in professional soccer and sports ownership, illustrating how athletes from different sports are recognizing the business opportunities created by the expansion of women's athletics. That trend could ultimately be bigger than any individual player. When elite athletes invest in women's sports, they bring their audiences with them. A basketball fan who follows Clark may become interested in the NWSL simply because Clark is involved. That crossover can help leagues reach people who might never have watched a professional soccer match before. There is another fascinating part of the Clark story, her reputation as a versatile athlete. Clark is obviously best known for basketball, but fans have seen her participate in other sports and athletic events. Her coordination, competitive personality, and ability to learn quickly have made her a natural attraction whenever she steps outside basketball. Golf is one example. Clark has participated in high-profile golf events alongside major sports personalities, including NFL legend Tom Brady. Those appearances have reinforced the idea that her appeal extends beyond one particular sport. There have also been plenty of viral moments involving Clark and soccer. While being athletic enough to kick a soccer ball or participate in a casual match does not mean she is ready to become a professional soccer player, those moments are entertaining because they show the athletic instincts that made her such a standout basketball player. Still, it is important not to confuse athletic versatility with a career change. Clark remains a WNBA star. Her involvement in an NWSL ownership bid is a business and investment decision, not evidence that she plans to abandon basketball for professional soccer. And that brings us back to the rumored $100 million figure. A huge number attached to a sports story can quickly become the headline, even when the actual financial structure is much more complicated. A reported franchise valuation, expansion fee, ownership group investment, and total project value are not necessarily the same thing. So claims that Clark and Cunningham personally agreed to a $100 million deal should be treated carefully unless backed by official documentation or credible reporting. Sophie Cunningham's name appearing alongside Clark also adds another layer to the story, particularly because both players have significant WNBA visibility. But their involvement should not automatically be interpreted as a $100 million personal investment or a completed NWSL transaction. The bigger story is arguably more interesting anyway. Caitlin Clark is using her platform to help promote another women's professional sport. If Cincinnati eventually receives an NWSL franchise,
Cincinnati issued a statement confirming that Clark is a part of the plan. Leaders say her passion for soccer and commitment to elevating women's
her involvement could give the project additional national attention and help introduce soccer to a broader audience of basketball fans. That is the real power of athlete ownership. Clark does not need to score a goal to influence the future of women's soccer. By putting her name, reputation, and business interests behind an expansion effort, she can help demonstrate that women's sports are not simply entertainment products. They are growing businesses with passionate audiences, valuable franchises, and enormous long-term potential. For Cincinnati, having one of the most famous young
FC Cincinnati provided a statement, there it is, saying in part, quote, "The NWSL Cincinnati bid team is thrilled that Caitlin Clark has joined our ownership."
Athletes in America connected to the project could be a major asset. For the NWSL, it represents another sign that professional women's soccer is attracting attention from stars across the sports world. And for Clark, it could be the beginning of an entirely new chapter. Her basketball career remains the priority, but her business career is already taking shape. Investments like this allow her to think beyond the next game, next season, or next contract. They give her an opportunity to help shape the sports landscape she will eventually be part of long after her playing days are over. So, is the sensational $100 million story confirmed? Not necessarily. The safer takeaway is that Clark has joined an ownership group pursuing an NWSL expansion opportunity in Cincinnati, and that development is significant on its own. Whether the bid ultimately succeeds remains to be seen. But one thing is becoming increasingly clear: Caitlin Clark's influence is no longer limited to the basketball court. She is becoming part of the larger business of women's sports, and that may turn out to be one of the most important parts of her legacy. Cincinnati may have a serious advantage in the race for an NWSL expansion team, and Caitlin Clark's involvement could make the city's bid even more compelling. Cincinnati is surrounded by strong sports markets, including Cleveland, but what separates it from many competing cities is its established soccer culture. FC Cincinnati has already demonstrated that professional soccer can attract huge crowds and passionate supporters in the region. The atmosphere around the club has become a major part of the city's sports identity, and that existing fan base could provide a strong foundation for a future NWSL team. That is one reason Clark's involvement is so interesting. She is not simply attaching her name to another sports project. She is joining
a women's professional soccer team to our city. Her passion for the sport, commitment to elevating women's sports in and around greater Cincinnati region.
Joining an ownership group that wants to bring professional women's soccer to a market where fans already understand and embrace the sport. For Cincinnati, having Clark involved could provide enormous national visibility. For Clark, the opportunity allows her to become part of a growing movement that extends far beyond basketball. And that is perhaps the most important part of this story. Caitlin Clark's decision to become involved in an ownership group reflects a larger change happening across professional sports. Today's athletes are no longer thinking only about what happens between the lines. Increasingly, they are building businesses, making investments, launching companies, and taking ownership positions that can shape their futures long after their playing careers are finished. Clark is becoming part of that new generation. Her basketball career has already made her one of the most recognizable athletes in America, but her influence is becoming much broader. By supporting a potential women's soccer franchise, she is showing that athletes can use their visibility and resources to help build opportunities in sports beyond their own. And there is plenty of precedent for this approach. LeBron James has built an enormous business portfolio and invested in professional sports, including soccer. Serena Williams has also become a major investor and advocate for women's sports through her business ventures and public platform. Clark's situation is especially interesting because her investment directly connects with the growth of women's athletics. It is easy to say that women's sports deserve more attention, more investment, and more opportunities. But putting real resources behind those ideas is something entirely different. Clark's involvement in Cincinnati's bid demonstrates action rather than simply words. If the city ultimately receives an NWSL franchise, the potential benefits could extend well beyond the ownership group. A successful professional women's soccer team could create more opportunities for players, coaches, executives, media professionals, and young athletes throughout the region. It could also introduce a new generation of fans to women's soccer. That visibility is extremely important. For years, women's sports have faced challenges involving media coverage, sponsorships, investment, and public recognition. But the landscape is changing rapidly.
The influence as an athlete and role model for women and girls around the world make her a vital part of our compelling bid to become the 16th team in the NWSL.
More fans are watching women's leagues, major companies are investing more heavily, and professional teams are recognizing the enormous commercial potential of women's athletics. Celebrity athletes can accelerate that process. When someone as recognizable as Caitlin Clark becomes involved, people who might not normally follow women's soccer suddenly have a reason to pay attention. Her basketball audience can discover the NWSL, learn about the players, follow the league, and potentially become long-term supporters. That creates a powerful ripple effect. More attention can lead to more sponsorship opportunities. Increased investment can improve facilities, marketing, player development, and the overall fan experience. A stronger league can then attract even more viewers and investors. In other words, one investment can contribute to a much larger cycle of growth.
Clark won't be playing in the new basketball league unrivaled. The 3-on-3 games start in January with 6 teams playing 14 games. Clark was offered a reported $1 million to take part, but sources say it is a thanks, but no thanks.
And the impact is not only financial. There is also a cultural shift taking place. For decades, women's sports were often treated as secondary to men's sports. But that perception becomes harder to defend when some of the biggest athletes in the world openly invest in women's professional leagues. Clark's involvement sends a simple message: women's sports are worth investing in. That message can be especially powerful for young girls. Imagine a young athlete growing up in Cincinnati, watching Clark compete in the WNBA and then seeing her involved in building a professional soccer team in the same region. It creates a different picture of what an athletic career can look like. You do not have to be only a player. You can become an owner, an investor, an entrepreneur, an executive, a leader. That possibility could inspire athletes across multiple sports. And the influence could go even further. If basketball players see Clark investing in soccer, soccer players see other athletes becoming owners, and tennis players or track athletes recognize similar opportunities, more athletes may begin thinking about their careers from a long-term business perspective. That could eventually reshape the entire sports industry. Of course, there is still uncertainty surrounding Cincinnati's expansion bid, and it is important not to treat every rumor surrounding the project as confirmed fact. Headlines about enormous financial figures can easily become exaggerated as stories spread across social media. The confirmed significance of Clark's involvement, however, does not depend on a sensational dollar amount. Her participation alone is meaningful. She is helping bring attention to a professional women's soccer project while demonstrating how powerful athletes can become when they use their platforms beyond competition. And for Cincinnati, that could be a major advantage. The city already has a soccer audience. It already has professional soccer infrastructure and supporters who understand the sport. Adding Clark's national profile to that foundation could create an exciting combination of local passion and national attention. For the NWSL, the opportunity is equally significant. Every new expansion market creates the possibility of reaching more fans and developing more talent. If Cincinnati becomes part of the league, Clark's involvement could help make the franchise one of the most closely watched new teams in women's sports. Ultimately, this story is about much more than one basketball star investing in soccer. It is about athletes realizing that their influence can extend beyond the game they play. Caitlin Clark has already changed the conversation around women's basketball. Now, through her involvement in Cincinnati's NWSL bid, she has an opportunity to help shape another part of the women's sports landscape. And if this trend continues, the next generation of athletes may not just compete for championships. They may help build the leagues themselves. Investments from high-profile athletes like Caitlin Clark and Serena Williams can bring much-needed attention to women's sports. When major stars publicly support women's leagues, they attract new fans, sponsors, and potential investors who may not have paid attention before. That increased visibility can create a powerful ripple effect. More funding can lead to better facilities, stronger marketing, improved player development, and a better experience for both athletes and fans. As women's sports continue to grow, those improvements can also create more opportunities for the next generation. But the impact goes beyond money. For years, women's sports have faced outdated perceptions and struggled to receive the same recognition as men's sports. When globally recognized athletes choose to invest in women's leagues, they challenge those assumptions and demonstrate that these competitions are valuable, exciting, and commercially powerful. Clark's involvement in Cincinnati's NWSL bid is a perfect example. She is using her platform to support growth, inspire young athletes, and help create a stronger future for women's sports.